Hello, my name is Matt Burke, and I'm a senior advisor on the global banking team here at First National Bank of Omaha. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a myriad of effects on the United States, its government, its citizens, and economy. While we could discuss any of these topics all day, we're going to talk about the coronavirus's impact on the U.S. dollar, how international currency markets have impacted the decline in oil prices, and finally, what impacts will be felt once things begin to normalize. The first thing you need to understand is that the coronavirus at its onset caused a spike in volatility in the currency and equity markets, which spooked traders and businesses engaged in international business. Currency markets look to the overall economic conditions of a country, monitoring GDP figures, consumer confidence, overall sentiment of policymakers, as well as central banks around the world. As the coronavirus spread worldwide and caused recessionary fears, the equity markets and currency markets experienced volatility spikes. This volatility led currency traders to flock to safe haven currencies with more stable economies, primarily the U.S. dollar. This led to an appreciation of the dollar, making U.S. exports more expensive and difficult for foreign buyers to purchase. The second impact the coronavirus had was its impact on the crude oil market. So how did this happen, and what are the impacts? Well, the first thing to understand is that the stay-at-home measures enacted by state and local governments on a worldwide scale had driven demand for petroleum products to an all-time low. As the virus began to spread, oil production continued, filling up storage tanks and in some instances, leaving ships filled with oil to remain anchored out at sea. So now you're asking, how does crude oil impact the currency market? Well, the answer is that the decline in oil wreaked havoc on commodity currencies like the Canadian dollar, Mexican peso, Brazilian real, and Norwegian kroner. These currencies are highly correlated to oil prices due to the country's significant oil reserves. And with oil prices bottoming out, the U.S. dollar again appreciated against all of them. For example, since January 1st of 2020, the U.S. dollar had appreciated as high as 7% against the Canadian dollar and as high as 27% against the Mexican peso. This is very significant, as Canada and Mexico are the top trading partners of U.S. companies, and as described earlier, made U.S. exports more expensive to Canadian and Mexican buyers. So, how does this all shake out? How will U.S. companies fare in the post-coronavirus landscape? Well, the month of April is telling for the U.S. dollar. As U.S. equity markets recouped some of their losses, the dollar paired some of its gains against its main trading partners. So what can U.S. businesses do now? Well, while the dollar's value continues to be extremely high, it's important for U.S. businesses to now begin the process of renegotiating some of their U.S. dollar-denominated payables, as the foreign supplier is now getting paid more in their local currency than they were for the same purchase just 6 months ago. Additionally, companies who wish to remove volatility in the currency market can look to forward contracts, which lock an exchange rate for a future date. Forward contracts can be utilized for both payables and receivables denominated in foreign currency, and they lock in a company's profit margin on its international sales. Commodity currencies are also seeing a rebound, as oil prices have recovered due to the increased global demand as lockdown and quarantine measures are loosened. Currency investors are also looking at how other countries are opening up from the coronavirus quarantine. They're looking at countries like New Zealand, countries in the European Union and Great Britain, and their respective currencies were slightly ahead of the United States in flattening the virus's curve. The United States and U.S. companies will have a short window of time to learn from what these regions are doing correctly and incorrectly when opening back up for business. Thanks for listening, and have a wonderful day.